Too early notice. Yeah, but I loved it. I remember that was something that you said you give Friday notice. Yeah. 2 or 3 days got turned out. I really loved it. But I think that's the second thing. Oh, why don't you bring it up? Yeah. Vote on it again. It's just the nerves. Right. It's just, yeah. So the first time I went, I was sort of impressed. Yeah. I mean, I think you did that one. Working it like a sport. I know you have the emotion and all that. And
then it seems like
all right, it's 11 minutes past 2 o'clock. Mari, we'll call this meeting to order. I'll ask Commissioner Wright to please provide our invocation.
Sure. Well, let us pray. Our God and our Father, we thank you again for this day, and we thank you for the many blessings that you give to us every day. We thank you for this another opportunity that we have to come to make a difference in our community for the citizens who live and work here every day. We pray for these commissioners who are here, as well as those who may not be here with us today. We ask now that you just guide us and direct us in the way that you would have us to go. And just let us remember, Lord, if we do it to the least of them, we're doing it to you as well. So we pray now that you will go with us in all that we do. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Okay.
Just like the city didn't send out a notice of the meeting, I forgot to send out a meeting.
Yeah, I was going to say, we did not receive the minutes.
I really dawned on me last night that I had not sent them out, so I thought.
No, that's okay. We will skip that then.
Let's check. Jonathan Lee told me he's gonna check in. Has he gotten in?
Not yet.
Okay, let me go ahead. I will check.
Okay.
I was talking to him a couple of days ago, and he said he's out of town.
Next up, our financial update. Commissioner Malinbeck.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. I believe you've all received a copy of the financial deck for Fund 173 and 157. Quickly look over Fund 173. Net obligations reported through June 6th of 2025 were at $172.4 million. This does include the action that we took in the previous meeting. I was unable to confirm through the minutes, but
I didn't have the minutes yet.
what I captured was about $2.4 million that we obligated in the last meeting. Would that be correct?
I couldn't remember.
Yeah. So I had Officer Catchings Drive 435, a bridge rather, Beasley Road 652, Dixon Road 120, McDowell, the overlay, Raymond to Suncrest 235, and then Phase 1A change order $1 million.
That's not right.
That's about right.
That's not right.
Okay.
That all rings a bell.
Yes, so that did increase our net obligations by about $2.4 million to the 172.4. Revenues and interest at $168.5 million. We had approximately $1.3 million that came in from sales tax revenue for the previous month. Expenses were at $135.7 million. We cleared payments of about $2 million since the last meeting, and the encumbrances were at $2 million. So that's Fund 173. Fund 157 remained the same. There were no adjustments. I believe I was looking for a posting on some bank charges, the minimum charges we get. When I put the report, that has not been posted, so that remains the same. And so that's it for the report. Take any questions, or I don't know if Commissioner Perry wants to provide any updates on some of the work that is underway.
I'm too late to try. Many of y'all have been the recipients of my emails over the last few days, weeks, whatever, with Mr. Malavecca. We had a meeting yesterday, with Fidelis, two or three of his folks. They had to leave about 11. We continued working on it till about 3 o'clock. So we spent a great deal of time going through, looking, trying to get clarification on some of the questions, many of them revolving around the Tiger Grant. Probably the most significant ones, most significant questions, the questions the hardest to answer with what we know right now so far, and whatever about the Tiger Grant. Particularly the Tiger Grant, West County Line Road is where, although the two are integrated together so that they affect each other. We, I think, came to a conclusion identifying what the questions were, and I think Fidelis agreed, acknowledging that there are some questions that need to be answered, that there are some serious issues in there that don't make sense the way the reports have it right now. And we left that meeting yesterday with them having all those, going to get with the comptroller, trying to figure out, this is going back to 2018, 19, and 20, so you've got auditors' issues and whatever that happened during that period of time. And it's on the old financial system, which makes a lot of the questions we have are on the old financial system. And so they're having to go deep through to figure out what the increases mean. In my opinion, what it looks like it will result in, and this is purely an opinion right now, is that there could be a few $1 million by whatever means, a reasonable cause or whatever, that has been charged to the Fund 173 on the Tiger Grant. Number one, might be charged wrong, might be charged properly, just the way recorded is hard to tell, but in any event, it's still going to exceed the amount that we obligated by a few $1 million. So, just looking at the total, what looks to be total expenses right now, greatly exceeds what we obligated. Two or three other things we were looking at, and the purpose of a lot of this was, he's been bothering me for a while, and Jeff says, pardon me on that, but I did get him.
You did.
I went and started back from the beginning and brought it all forward through 2019, because there's some issues on the 2020 reports we got. That was the year they changed the system. They were trying to get clarified so that we could close out those projects and say, this is how much money we can de-obligate, where we obligated more than what the project ended up actually costing. And that was kind of where the goal that brought these things up. And other than the Tiger Grant, I think after this meeting yesterday and get an answer today, tomorrow, we can be able to do that on those. Looking at it with a hard, not a close look at it a week ago, it looks to me that through 2019, there's about $3 to $4 million that could be de-obligated. Projects that are completed that had money left over. One or two of them, they went over, but the rest of them has money left over. I know that 2021-22, there's still another $1 million or $2 dollars, and those projects are pretty well completed. So there's probably, once we can get that process finished, that amount of money that we could lower the net obligations down. The other thing that we've discovered through this, some of it we found a couple of years ago, been there hanging out trying to deal with it, forgetting about it. There's about $1 million, and I'm rounding that out, maybe not quite $1 million, of charges that were made to this 173 account that weren't our projects altogether. You know, purely a bookkeeping and inputting error type thing is one on for the 48-inch water line. When you got Hemphill doing that, you got Neil Schaefer doing the engineering, and you got Hemphill doing these others. And I could see where this happened, so it's nothing nefarious about it. And my understanding is that because there's a normal budget resolution thing y'all have to do in during June with the city council. That's gonna be on the agenda for y'all to take care of getting those, so you transfer money from some other city fund into this fund for that. And it's over $500,000, it's under $1 million, I don't know what the number is. But hopefully that's a minor thing that's not gonna be complicated. Hopefully we got the rest of the things at least being looked at to try to find answers on, particularly the Tiger Grant. Two or three other things, there were some charges made to the water line account from Neil Schaefer, the Eastover water line. I said, that's not right. Well, we looked it up. They happened to be on the Tiger Grant, so they were still our charges. It's still, the money probably came out of our fund, but it's just an accounting thing about where they went. And that was just for them to clean up. So if you want to, no matter, but that's where we are with all that. We did spend a nice, friendly 5.5 hours yesterday.
And on that note, again, as I indicated last
Let me
meeting,
ask Jonathan Lee real quickly. Hey, Jonathan, we've got you now. Can you mute your phone for us, please? Jonathan Lee.
I'm sorry, say that again?
Could you mute your phone for us, please?
Oh, sure.
That'll be helpful. Thank you.
Except for when you want to talk.
yeah, again, I just, would like to say thanks to Commissioner Perry. We had to drag him out of the bed yesterday, and he was willing to get out to spend some time on this. So just want to say thank you for that time.
Glad to do it, man. We got it done.
Great work. Thank you both for doing that. If there are no other comments or questions, we can move on to project updates. And Mr. Al Turk.
I'm going to go on this side so we can, whoever is there can see us. So I sent you the spreadsheet, I think Friday. So I'm not going to go through every project because I hope that you all had enough time to review them. But I was really planning to go through the ones that require authorization by the commission.
Before you do the ones that you're going to be asking for authorization, can we get an update on some of the ones that are ongoing? Because I think knowing what's happening with some of them might be worthwhile. So, I don't know, we've got anybody but Jeff, we talked about one ABC projects there. Anything else? If nothing's happening with the projects, I don't need an update, but I did have a question about one or two of them. So.
Okay. So just let us know which ones. So
Since we don't have an agenda.
Okay, so 1A, we had the change order finalized, and I think you all authorized $12 million. And even with the change order and with the adjustment to Neil Schaefer contract for the CAI for the increased 45 days for the construction, you're probably around 11.6 something. So you'll have.
Not sure.
Yeah. So you have roughly about $400,000 remaining in that contract. And this is the change order changed the time of completion to June 30th.
Yeah. And as a general rule, we rented this on 1A. I'm sure we're running into it on 1B and C too. 1B and C even closer because what we approved there was just actually the amount of the contract itself, basically. We didn't put in any extra. But since we're doing it, materials and the unit cost contract on those, my only point is that when we get to the end of 1A, they're still out there working on some of it. If it's going to end up costing 12.2 rather than the 12 we approved, it generally doesn't have to come back to us for that to get the work. We don't want to see the work stop and have to come back to the next meeting where we've got to approve $201,000. If it's going to be 13.5, I think we do, but you can't send the bill to the city council as a final. But
So what we've done is, since there was going to be, a progress payment before the final payment that was gonna go over the amount. So we did the change order to cover that.
Which I appreciate that, that's right.
Yeah, and so, I mean, there won't be any reason for them, to stop work or anything
Yeah,
at
but I
this
mean,
point.
I
No, I
think we got,
think what Pete is saying,
I think
if-
we got a standing thing that we did about, Michael might have to help me this, 8 or 9, 7 or 8 years ago. If it's gonna be within like 5% of where we are,
Oh, okay.
on like a, you know, now, on this, we knew it ahead of time, had a progress payment, you need to get the approval. But if it's $12 million, when you finally, they keep on working until June the 20th, and then all the materials come in, it's gonna be 12/1. I'm saying, you could do all that, you might not can send the bill to get it paid until we give you another $100,000, but it doesn't mean that we wanna see the work stop in the meantime, waiting on us to meet.
So your guidance is basically, we have some leeway within about 5%. Plus or minus.
Particularly on these unit cost material things, because they can get there. And, you know, if the C&I is gonna run under, even though we appropriated it separately, moving that around, all that doesn't matter, but I'm just saying, don't wanna see the work stop on it, because we would get, like, it looked like it almost could have if we had had a meeting last month. But on 1A, Chad, tell us kind of what we have left to finish on it. Where are we waiting on the city to fix collapses and stuff?
I talked with QN, with Jackson Water on the way over here, and they're fixing the collapse at Quinn and Persimmon, I believe. They're
Yeah.
fixing that today. And
So that's Jackson Water.
Yeah, that's on them. The storm sewer repair on Pinehurst was completed yesterday.
Okay.
So we're moving forward with getting that paid, that section paid.
Right by where they repaired the collapse, there's damage to the new pavement we put on the other lane. Are they gonna be able to fix that
On Pinehurst?
on Pinehurst?
Yes.
Right beside where they repaired the collapse, in the lane that's already been resurfaced, is messed up.
Yeah, we'll make it all.
All right, now then, on my favorite subject, manholes that they're out there raising now.
Yeah.
What is the standard for where that manhole's supposed to end up?
I don't know if there is a standard. Can you be more specific?
Well, here's
It
the
used
level
to be
of,
flush, basically.
here's the level of pavement, here's the manhole. Is the standard that's gotta be flush, or within an inch, or a quarter of an inch, or, I mean, is it, my opinion, it's supposed to be flush.
Well, sure, well, yeah.
Okay,
But-
so does getting close count for where they're repairing them now?
I don't know, I'm in the process of riding all the streets and doing.
But some of them are doing real good, and some of them are close but not flush.
Okay.
And if they're gonna do them, I would just advise them to go ahead and do them and do it right. I drove over one getting here today.
Yes.
It's much better than it used to be, but it's still not flush.
Okay. Like I said, I have to ride every street in the process, checking all
Good deal.
water valve and manhole,
Yeah.
make sure they're flush.
And 1B and 1C, they started the work, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so this is ongoing, they'll be finished, both of them,
Okay,
before the end of the
News here to discuss on 1B and 1C that Chad's aware of, and it might be even getting worse. The county had paved some streets in 1B that we had on our list. They're now paving some more streets in 1B that we had on our list, which is fine with me, but it means
Yeah, we just do a
we're gonna
change
take them
order.
off the list.
Yes.
And I have begged both Deborah Dixon, Wanda Evers, Murray Stewart, Dexter, and somebody else to send me a list of all the ones that they have paved, that are paving, or going to pave. There's some more down there that are going to be paved. It also appears that they're paving some up in 1A that we had on our list, which is again fine with me, but it brings up something I'd like to talk about, not on 1A, on 1C, that I'd like to talk about while we're here talking about. I know they're doing some over there in North Point. We have those two little ones in North Point Drive. My understanding is they're doing all of those.
Okay.
After we had our meeting on the telephone approving the $300,000 for Jackson Country Club to give to Hines County, later that afternoon, the mayor called and asked me if, when they were doing St. Andrews, if they'd included St. Andrews on the other side of Old County. I said, no, sir, I don't think so, but it certainly needs it. He said, yes, it does. It may need to do it. He said, would you call, I think he said your friends, and I laughed at him, but your friends over laughed with him at the Board of Supervisors and asked them, would they do that if we pay for it? So I called Robert Graham, and he said, no, they didn't have it in the deal, but they had wanted to do it, and they had an estimate on it. I said, well, if you'll give us the estimate, we'd like to bring it up, and we might pay y'all while you got AJ out there doing this other to do it. And we haven't been able to get that estimate yet. So in exchange for that, since they're doing these others over that we were gonna be doing in North Point, I would like to suggest, if it needs to be in the form of a motion, make a motion, that we add those streets off of St. Andrews on the west side of Old Canton. As it's a long way, we might not have to deal with this today because it's a lot. They're starting on the south end and going north, so we could get some more information about it. And there is a little base failure there on St. Andrews that we need to look at to see how bad it is. Just past Fred Banks' house.
Do you just need a number? Is that
Well,
what information you're trying?
I don't think we need the number. I'm just saying that since if we couldn't get the county to do it and we don't do this, we'd be putting it on our 2C program for next year. But since we're going to have people working out there in the area right now and have a contract in place that's a good contract, and we're going to be taking some streets off of our 1C, I'm suggesting we might want to add some 1C in this place. Down in 1B, we might find some of what we're going to do to add down there too. But whether we do it today or later, but I think there's consideration to be given to doing St. Andrews and there's Polo and some other little side street up there. I forgot what that
Really,
was.
my suggestion is that we need to meet with the county and get a list of all the projects that they're doing.
They're not doing those streets. I know that.
But they're doing others that's gonna require a change order.
No, it's not going to require a change order.
How are we gonna have to reduce them from our scope?
Well, I think that's automatic in what I don't know how the contract reads, but I think we put in there that we can add or subtract streets from it. I mean, and
Well,
look,
it'll be a change order.
okay, but change order to take them out, okay.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
Sure,
we have to
okay, but,
switch them out.
yeah, but I mean, that's a very technical thing, because if they don't go do it, we're not gonna be paying for the unit cost for going in there. So if they change order to say, yeah, you didn't have to do Brook Hollow because Brook
Right.
Hollow, yeah. So that's a change order. If we add streets, it'd have to be a change order, I understand that. I'm just saying that getting, the county's list is changing daily. And we might get a list today, but what they're doing next month, they might still be doing some more. We're trying to get, they've all promised, the county's on the coast this week. Dexter's down there too. Hire Smith's supposed to be getting me a list, Murray Stewart's supposed to, but he's getting his knee replaced. We're supposed to be getting the list in, and they got three different groups. They got Public Works, IMS, and Murray Stewart. So there's three different ones managing their streets. Go.
Not that I object to the county
I'm all
paving
for it.
streets in the city, but there really should be, I mean, so we used to make them do an interlocal, and we got away from that. And I thought we had reached an understanding that we would like do these mutual,
Well,
orders off, that they were gonna pay this and that we would accept it, and that would say, I'm not gonna hold anything up
I
for
mean,
that.
I'm all for them paving anything they want to pave, but but they found out about 5 years ago that the way they've been getting in a local agreement for years, it wasn't required because some AG's ruling that says they're their streets as much as they are the cities.
Well, that's not true.
Well, that's what I'm not going to sit here and argue law.
I know.
But either way, I saw that they quit getting in a local and they were doing this. Look, the supervisor called me and said, are y'all paving the streets down there? And I said, yeah, it's the ones, the new ones, Thousand Oaks or whatever we call it. And then I found out we hadn't started that because you called me and said something about it. And I called her back and said, no, y'all are doing that. And she didn't know they were doing it. I mean, them knowing what's going on is not.
Well, we're gonna have to coordinate with them. Because the city is gonna be also resurfacing 35 miles under the bond program. This is gonna be advertised next month. So the same thing could happen, that they come and pave some streets
I
there.
understand it, and if we can get.
So we need to schedule a meeting.
If any of us, meetings are wonderful, if they get the right people there with you know, getting the list is what I'm trying to do right now. I think that's great, we ought to get it, so that we can then, I'm more interested in knowing where they wanna go next. I can figure out what they've already paid, but if they fix and move across the street from Brook Hollow to something else that we got, fine. And we can take that off, and we very well might add some streets at the same time. My point right now is because we know up there in 1C, on contract 1C, they're doing some streets there. There's been all this interest in St. Andrews across the street. I say all this interest, I got about 10 calls about it, but evidently the mayor is too, because it costs enough. He's gonna call me and talk to me about it, evidently he's getting a lot of calls too. This was a couple of months ago. And it is in bad need of fixing, so it just seems to me like it's a good time to look at adding it in. I just don't know, if they're starting in Low Hope and going north, we probably would have the month to be able to deal with it to add it. Would you say, Chad?
I think so, yes.
Right.
Yeah, it needs to, yeah, by next meeting, it'd be good to.
Yeah, by next meeting,
Yes.
and we'll find out which one, all the ones that they are paving that we had in the contract that we're taking off, and then we can go
But
forward.
we just need to be careful for adding a lot more than 1A, because they're gonna come and ask for more time.
Yeah.
Well, we're not adding anything to 1A.
Just be
Right, that's what I'm saying.
No, we're not adding anything to 1A.
Okay, we're good.
Yeah, this is all,
What
I
would be
did,
1C?
I did slip up and say 1A a while ago. 1A, we're not adding
Right,
anything.
okay, good. Because really, we need to close that
What?
contract.
Who's doing the county paper?
AJ, I believe. I know that's who did, I know that's, let me back, AJ's doing stuff up north in District 1. I assume it's them doing this down there, but I know they did what's going on in Roberts up in District 1. All right, thank you.
1B, 1C, I guess the construction started back in middle of April, just beginning this process. So we'll be finished with those two contracts in October and December of this year. At least this is scheduled. 26.
26.
All right, so any other projects on this sheet? I don't want to go through projects unless there's any questions about them.
I would like you giving us an update, because you gave me an email about Woodrow Wilson 1.
Yeah, but I send it to everybody, so everybody
You see
should
that
have.
thing? Okay, so,
So anybody has any questions about that?
but I still got some questions about it, so.
Okay.
So, what's holding it up now is,
So really, there's nothing holding it up now. We're delayed because we were not able to get the easement from
so
UMC.
you're taking off the sidewalk.
So we're removing the sidewalk, and Michael Baker is actually gonna be finishing the final design and submitting it to MDOT this Friday.
And
It has been submitted.
It has been submitted? Okay, great.
Okay, so
So
how
it'll
long-
be submitted today.
how
So-
long- what happened
So
there?
typically, with their approval, they have to go to MDOT first, and then the Federal Highway to give final authority to advertise. And this takes from 3 to 6 weeks. So as soon as they give us authority to advertise, we'll advertise it.
That's what.
So it'll be sometime in July, end of
My
July.
point is gonna be that, once we get it back, I think we ought to advertise that one. It's been on
Yeah,
the
we
books.
will advertise it immediately.
Well, yeah.
That's, advertising isn't gonna be a problem.
Unlike what I've said about some of these others where you were advertising without us knowing about it, or what is committing us to, or might be committing us to, this commission talked about Woodrow Wilson 1 so much that the mayor said he didn't want to hear it said again, and I think that might apply to a bunch of others. I think there's unanimous agreement among here that we want to see if we can afford to do it, we want to do it. So it's unlike what I said, when you advertise without knowing if you get the money, I'm encouraging that we advertise for my money's worth.
We'll advertise it as soon as we get the authority from MDOT. and
Other
Federal
people
Highway.
might disagree, but I think everybody's ready to see Woodrow Wilson 1 done, started.
We're moving forward with
Can I
this.
add something?
Yeah, sure.
Well, the sidewalk, we will apply again for it. We just dropped it for this project.
Apply for, what do you
For
mean?
funding, for funding.
For
What?
funding. We reapply for it again.
You apply to who?
Well, no, that was, that
MDOT.
sidewalk was a separate grant.
It's a separate grant.
Oh,
It
that's
was
how,
rolled in, yeah.
It's a shared path, it's not.
It was a.
so our project's not being held up by, our project being held up by another project.
I mean, they're all included
No,
in the same
no.
design. The funding sources, the two different funding sources, but the design is one design.
Well,
It
wait a
includes
minute.
Both the projects.
Wait a minute. Woodrow Wilson 1 started in 2017. That sidewalk project didn't come along until about 2021 and 22, so it wasn't the same
No,
project.
it was.
They combined them.
They might have combined them after they got the second one, but the second one came along well after the first one that we were doing.
That's right, but now they're combined. We are decombining them right now, so we can move forward with this project.
You decombining the whole sidewalk project, but we couldn't build the rest of that sidewalk project. And if you combine them, it's combining our money with something we can't build.
Well, the sidewalk is removed, so it's not,
All of it, I mean, is, that sidewalk project, as I understood it, was we went around, wrapped around in front of those schools and went down to Bellhaven somewhere.
No, that's different. No, this was just a little section on Woodrow Wilson there from Peachtree to State Street.
From the university side.
No, from Peachtree
Yeah,
on
on the university as well.
Peachtree
So
to
whoever
State
decided to combine that screwed up our project now because it's keeping our project from going forward. Okay, go ahead.
well,
No.
we're back on track, so what happened a couple of years ago, we kept control of what we do today.
It's never held
So-
up a price.
so we have-
It's holding it up today, right now, because we would have had this to end out 2 or 3 months ago if we didn't have to deal with that sidewalk. It is holding it up.
We're moving forward.
Easement, right away.
We're gonna be advertising in the next few weeks.
Let me turn this thing off. Sorry.
All right, I guess going through the
Excuse me.
project.
It's Deborah Dixon, but I'm not gonna answer it. What we're talking about, so where must be getting that.
Her ears were burning.
Her ears were burning, exactly. All right, moving on, I guess with the projects that requesting authorizations. So McDowell Road Extension, we received bids on this on May 13. We got 4 bids. APAC bid was 1.966, which is 17% lower than the engineer's estimate. So we're requesting the commission
Well,
approval.
wait, lower the engineer's estimate, I mean, how does it compare to other bids?
The other bids actually were 1.9 was the closest one, then they had 2.2, and the highest was 3.1. So the engineer estimate was really actually
Yeah.
pretty good within the range, so.
And this is that area wrapped around about the UPS area. Yeah.
So again, I'm requesting authorization from the commission to do the CA&I for 81,940, and also the 80% of the construction bid amount. So the total would be 409.
Wait, that was not an NPL project.
MDOT is putting $2.3 million.
Well,
It is
He'll pay it.
And it's not by UPS, it's out by McDowell.
that was, that's, you're talking about the one that's behind the new jail?
No.
No,
Raymond 18.
Oh, well, that's what it said a minute ago, okay. Okay. I misunderstood.
so this is from,
Thank you,
We got
Commissioner.
we got two McDowell Road projects.
yeah, from Highway 18 to Raymond Road.
That is an, yeah,
Yeah,
right.
yeah, Highway 18 to Raymond Road. So again, we're requesting authorization of this rounded up to 410,000 to cover the CE&I and the
Make them
difference.
two separate amounts, don't combine.
Okay,
Because
81,940.
that's what we dealt with up here, we need two separate amounts.
So 81,940 for the CE&I. And the difference between the 410 and the 81 should be $320 or 330. 330,000 for construction.
You can take both of those in the same motion.
So-
Both be in the same motion,
Yeah.
just have two separate amounts.
Yeah, so 82,000 for CA&I and 330 for the construction.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Do we have any discussion? If none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion
You
carried.
can see both those heard.
Was muted, but I said aye.
Okay, thank you.
What about Jonathan?
Jonathan?
I was an aye.
Thank you.
Just, y'all gotta check that.
Yeah.
All right, South State Street, again, this is the third of a mile portion that Southern gave us the description on it. And I think, Pete, you asked the question last time that why we skipped that other portion and applied for this. So we went back and actually met with MPO to try to find out what transpired. And what we discovered is actually the city applied for funding for this project, but also applied for funding for South State Street from McNutt Street to Capitol Street.
What street?
McNutt. And so here's the map.
That's not the road that's right coming.
Yeah, it's actually adjacent to that project, going north.
Yeah.
So the city applied for both of them, but they only got funding for this project that we have here. So what we talked about is the possibility of actually applying to MDOT on this project.
I think we ought to apply to MDOT for this project. I'm still against spending $1 million to do a quarter-mile road when we don't have enough money to do everything we need to do. I think applying for this one again would be great. But because this section is about 2 miles long, there's lots of business and lots of customers. What we'll be doing right now is for a quarter of a mile, spending $1 million worth of city money, and there's 1 or 2 businesses down there, and no customers, and you gotta drive through all this other to get there, and then you gotta drive through it again. I think making a quarter mile really pretty and nice when the rest of it's gonna be bad is not a good spending of limited dollars that we have with $1 million. So I am against this. I plan to vote against it. I would be glad to discuss with anybody. I mean, I tell you 10 times where we ought to spend that $1 million other than right there. I mean, we got needs all over this city. And if the word got out that we paid a quarter of a mile for what we could have done, you know, half a dozen neighborhood streets or business down here, or replace the bridge here or whatever, I think that's a terrible expenditure of money. I'm glad that they gave us $1 million worth of federal money, but just because I think people have turned it down before, cities have turned it down before, and they got in there and looked at it and said, no, we turned it down before on McDowell Road Bridge. We got $250,000, but we went to the bridge without taking it for $250,000. So turning it down is okay. But
Yeah,
somebody, I asked Jim, and he couldn't give a good, he gave a good answer. He said, I can't give you a good reason to, justification for it. Just because we got it on the plate doesn't mean we ought to go do it, and I think that's not a good expenditure of $1 million.
I mean, obviously, this is a policy decision that
Yeah,
we'll have to
that's right.
decide. So,
Exactly.
I'm just presenting that the project is
I know
ready to
you
go.
are. I know you
The
are.
project is ready to go, and I think it probably, you know, we've been working with MDOT for a number of, really a couple of years with them on this. It doesn't look good when we have to return funds.
Yes,
But-
they do.
No, I understand they do all the time. What I'm saying is that probably we should have made a decision early on that we shouldn't apply for it.
It was only,
But-
it was only 2 months ago or 3 months ago that I learned it was that quarter mile rather than 2 miles that we've been led to believe. And so when I learned it's that quarter mile and went and looked at it, I didn't even realize it was a quarter mile until I drove on it and saw how short a distance it was from Town Creek to the railroad. Yes, if we'd had good information, we might have made this decision early. I agree, certainly. We should have made this decision before we paid them $200,000 to do the engineering on it. But we didn't. We didn't have that information clear to us, at least I didn't. I'm not gonna speak for anybody else. I didn't have it. And seeing now, we also didn't have the engineer's estimate what it's gonna cost of that bid. We were told is a 20%, it was gonna be like $200,000, but because the estimate we submitted to MDOT was way low, our cost has increased. It's now not an 80-20 project, it's more like a 60-40 project. And so, getting all the information we have right now, yes, it's not good, but it's better than pissing away $1 million.
So the estimate in the application for construction was 1.3 million, and the bid came at 1.6. So it's
And we're paying full freight on the CNI. We didn't put in for the CNI on that one like we did on everything else.
So
We didn't ask for the 80% on CNI on that one.
when the 1% doesn't vote to fund these things, for whatever reason, this one or
The
any
city
other
could
ones,
do it.
that doesn't stop
Yeah.
the city from
The city can still
making a
go do
budget
it.
adjustment
Yeah.
and doing the project
That's correct.
Losing $1 million.
themselves, right?
They've not paid any streets out of city's general funds for the last 12, 13 years, but they could. and they got modernization tax. You're right, it does not stop them from doing it. The grant, the MPO grants to the city, they could keep on going with it. We would hand them we don't have to hand it, but I mean, we done the engineering, it goes to them, and they just don't do it. Or you could ask the county if they want to do it, we could hand them our MPO grant, but they're gonna laugh, they'd laugh at that.
So, I mean, just sort of as just a general policy thing, do y'all have, like a comment on that? Like, is it a city priority enough that y'all would dedicate $700,000 to it, or like, it doesn't matter because the city doesn't have the money, or like, I'm just curious, like, in a broader sense, we talk about it like, sometimes like we're the only funding source that exists here, and so I'm curious, like, when we say, hey, we're against this project, or it's not a priority for the 1% commission, to say it that way, what does that mean from you guys' side of the discussion? I guess it's kind of a general question.
There are some projects that are priority, that are on this sheet, that the city is funding, that 1% is not funding. This is one that I would be in favor of the commission funding, and it may incite NDOT to fund from capital to the railroad track. This section that.
The one that was.
That's not
right.
an MDOT choice, that's the MPO's choice. MDOT's not the one that makes that decision. Now, I would say, in 2 weeks, there'll be a new administration asking them that question, might be a valid question to make too. Because you got the committee, you got the mayor, you got the council, they might have a different vote, or the same vote, but it doesn't have, you know.
So Paul, I'm gonna give you a general answer really of what other cities typically do, both for maintenance, resurfacing, and for capital projects. Typically, every 5 years, the cities actually go and do an assessment of all of their roads. And based on this assessment, they will determine which ones are ongoing maintenance that the city need to take care of. A lot of the resurfacing projects, really this should be probably routine maintenance that the city should be doing. In my view, should not even be funded by 1%. You should be focusing more on large capital projects. And again, this is technical opinion, it's not a policy decision. Obviously, when the new administration come in, you will need to have this discussion. But my vision is actually we'll do an assessment of all the roads, we come up with what are the maintenance projects that need to be done, and what are the capital improvement, what needs to be basically redone, reconstructed. And then decide how much it's going to cost. And then you sit down together with the city, with the CCID, and with the 1%, and figuring out how you're going to divide those projects. You have a plan there. So before really projects were done based on like the resurfacing, is really based on what the subdivision associations.
No, that was just for neighborhoods. Let's go back. The city did a study of streets in 2013.
That's correct.
And that's the last time the city done one. Not every 5 years, it's now 12 years old.
No, I'm talking about other cities.
Excuse me, I know. You just said what they ought to be doing. Most cities have money in their general fund budget for infrastructure. State law requires cities to have 1 mil. The city of Jackson in 2008 cut their 13 mills to 1 mil, and has not increased it since then. So there has not been general fund money except for 1 mil, which is about $1.1 million spent on infrastructure, water, sewer, whatever, drainage, not sewer, sewer's on the other side, the drainage, bridges. So, yes, that would be good, but they got this money now, and they count on it to not supplement, which is what its intent was to be, as you suggested it should be, but it's been the priority. Now then, the way we've gone about what streets to do, no, we didn't do what you just said. We're only doing that for the neighborhood, because that Stantac program didn't cover neighborhood streets, because there are way too many, you can't survey all the streets in town, because there's too many of them. So it generally got arterials and connectors and whatever in a few neighborhoods. We did that because there were so many neighborhood streets, and said, how in the world are we ever gonna go about doing it? So, and now we didn't take what they gave us, we then took what they gave us and did windshield surveys and looked at it and had them look at it. And right now, because the city was not spending any money on it anywhere, you know, it's come out of here. And most of the things that we have paid have been what the Public Works Department brought down here and put in front of us. We've turned down a lot, but we hadn't really added to anything. I think we've added 1 or 2 streets out of everything that's been done. So it's still been driven there, or what we could get federal funding for is kind of what drove it. But all the streets right now, if you did a survey, except for the ones that we've attended to over the last 10 years with this money, are ones that are degraded to the point that they probably rate a 1, 2, or 3. None of them are gonna be up to a 5. So you could take any street and put it on that list and say it needs to be done. Because we're at that position that it's so bad. And my point is, that $1 million, sit down here, and I'm gonna bring this up a little bit. You said I couldn't because we had to go through this process, and that'd take 5 years to get that study done. In what they call the Belhaven Business District, although I don't consider it part of Belhaven, between High Street north of Moody and between Monroe Street and the interstate, there's 2 miles of streets. We redid Larson Street in 2016 with $112,000 of this money. So most of Larson, except for the very south end, has been done. But the others, which is about 1.5 miles street, there's 61 businesses down there. One of those businesses pays more in taxes to this city than everything along that street. The other business right beside it does. One of them is spending $3 million right now renovating. They spent $3.5 million last year renovating. And spending $200,000 or $300,000 down there would do a whole lot more for the economic, which is our policy position. Our priorities that we decided about how we pick streets, that was one of the factors. So spending money there for $200,000 or $300,000 makes a lot more sense to me than spending $700,000 here. And we got plenty of cases like that say, you know, this bridge is out. How are we going to pay for it? Do we need to replace the bridge on Country Club Drive or spend $1 million here? And that's where we have to look at is how much money do we have? We got roughly $11 million a year to deal with. And we've got $4 million committed to bonds. And that $11 million don't go far. It really don't go far when you spend $1 million doing a quarter-mile road. Now then, it's a policy decision. I know your job is to move projects along, and there's a project that's on your desk when you got there. Ours is saying, do we want to spend $1 million there? Everybody, you got to take a vote on it if there's a motion to do it, but my vote's no. So far, there's not a motion, so I'm not worried about it yet. Now, the fact that we might turn it down today doesn't mean it could come back up at the next meeting, because we don't have to send the money back today. And the city council might decide they want to fund it from somewhere else. I mean, there's other options of it. It's not saying if we vote no, you have to call in together tomorrow and tell them money's coming back. It just means that right now we're not doing anything with it. And I do think it's a question that would be well asked of the new administration when they come in about what they would like to see done.
Of course, I mean, you have to understand what their policy is well. So you
What?
absolutely, I mean, the new administration, we need to know what their policy
Yeah,
is.
but we don't have any idea. I don't
Yeah,
have-
we don't.
And so, I mean, all I'm saying is that if we don't do anything with funding it today, it's not saying that we shot a 22 through its heart. It's still there to be discussed somehow in another place. I'm just saying, next month, month after, I'm still not gonna vote to spend $1 million on this, but, yeah, there are the votes on here.
Is it a 90-day bid though, what the price is for?
Down here at 120. Biggest name. It not says 30 days or whatever, but we're gonna, we can get there and get around that.
So the
Which
bids,
is
the
the
bids were open.
reason why you should not have advertised until you talked to this commission first.
The bids were open May 13, so we have it till August.
Okay.
So I'm gonna just make a recommendation so you all can decide whether you want to have a motion or
There was a
not.
motion.
How much are we talking about?
657,212. This is for 243 for the CNI, and then the difference will be for construction, which is how much?
300 and something thousand.
Almost 400.
And we've already spent, what, $200,000 on engineering.
I'll make the motion. Move forward.
All in favor?
Well, we don't have a second yet.
Oh, sorry.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Me. You,
I'm opposed.
Michael,
Opposed.
John,
Jonathan Lee?
you, Paul.
Opposed.
Okay.
42.
The nays have it on this one. Motion does not carry.
The next project is the Northwest Industrial Park,
I'm
Beasley
sorry,
Road.
can I ask another question? So, just in the name of effectiveness of us all being here and talking about it, how do we get from a felt and observed need in the, whatever we want to call it, Moody High Street area, to actually that being something that's brought before the commission? The commission can't generate that,
Yeah, they can.
but we could.
We do it all the time.
Okay.
And I plan to before the meeting's over. And now what action we take on, whether it's just to get somebody to go around and look at it, whether we obligate funds in order to get an engineer to do it. I don't know if it takes engineering. I mean, this is a discussion we'll have, but yes, we can generate it.
Question answered, thank you.
Now then, there's another part of that. We might generate it, we might say we want to fund it. If the city council never approves it, nothing happens. You know, Public Works doesn't care to the city council. They can't do anything with it, so, you know, but we hadn't run into that yet. The word's always been that if that happened, then we don't have to approve anything else and so, but just because we approve it doesn't mean that it gets done.
We're not the contracting authority. Shelter?
All right, Northwest Industrial Park, Beasley Road. Again, on this, the bids were opened in January. And we actually were able to extend the bids until, I think, sometime in July. And so the lowest bidder on this is 1.635 by AJ Construction. And we received 5 bids on this, and they were very, very competitive. So, and this also was under the engineer's estimate was 2.3 million.
This is civil tech.
That's correct. So my recommendation is to authorize the CNI for 142,149, and then the difference between and the remainder of the 1.77 million. Well, I guess with the construction amount is 1.635. Let's say call it 1.636.
Let me give you some numbers if somebody wants to make a motion.
Okay.
The bid's 1.635 and change. Right, 1.640 and 145 for the city.
Okay.
Round both up just a couple $1,000.
That sounds good.
I think you say 145 for CNI.
145 for city and 1.640 for construction.
We have a motion.
Who's motion?
False. Seconded by
My point is, I want to record it on there so that when I make the
Commissioner Wright, second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Jonathan, was that an aye? Okay.
Yes, it was.
Thank you.
I didn't vote.
Okay. I think that's unanimous.
All right, on the Gallatin Street, McDowell Road, there's not requesting an action, just want to give you an update.
That was the one I was asking about like that. That's the one I got confused on.
Yeah, okay. So I'll give you the answer now. So this is really where the jail construction is going on. But also we discovered that there is, Jackson Water is actually going to be putting 2 water lines, 36-inch and 12-inch line that's going to actually go through the project as well. And between the two of them, this is probably gonna have, we have to reject the bids and maybe rebid it sometime in 2026 when those two are completed, so we don't have any problems with those.
We originally talked about not bidding early until they got further along with jail anyway, so the only problem we got since we took bids, but I didn't know anything about Jackson Water.
Yeah, so the Jackson Water, we discovered as well, so it doesn't really make sense to go out and do it and then having to tell it up. So this is really no action, just want to update you on this. All right, on the next project is the McClure Road Bridge. This is for design services. I guess gave you the explanation. I guess there was a question last time about the differences between this and the Dixon Bridge that we approved before. And basically, the engineer responded to why the cost is pretty close to the two of them. The amount of work is justifies it. So again, I really have a recommendation to move.
So what did the engineer say? I can't read this, I ain't got my glasses, the print's too small, so if you got an answer to that, how about telling me what it was?
Okay.
You gotta take your glasses off.
I can see well short distance, but long distance is no problem. So the difference between McClure and Dixon, McClure has 2 spans and Dixon has 3 spans. But the amount of work is pretty close. This is reflected in the bridge design fee for McClure, and this will lead to potential flooding problems here. That's really the only.
That doesn't answer anything for me. The question was, McClure Road Bridge is a lot smaller than the Dixon Road Bridge. You just told us that Dixon's 3 spans, this is 2. So why do they cost the same? If put in a smaller bridge.
So this is the answer I'm coming to.
Okay.
It says the McClure side is a little more complex due to the driveways on the south side beyond the approaches on the east and west. So a special design bridge and impact abutment will have to be placed. So there's really more work, is what they're saying, than what you have in Dixon. Although the span is shorter. These are 2 spans instead of 3 spans.
I know Dixon's not closed. Is McClure closed?
No, it's not. I don't think it's closed.
Is it rated? I mean,
It is.
my question is going back to where we talked earlier about where did the need for McClure Road Bridge come from?
It came from the evaluation. Ahmad, do you have the evaluation that MDOT?
Oh, we got, wait, excuse me, the evaluation from MDOT says there are about 80 bridges in that kind of shape, or 25 or 40, there's a bunch. Why did McClure Road get picked over these others that are evaluated that way? I mean, it might not be any except for somebody threw darts at it, but that might be the answer. But yeah, I saw the evaluations, you sent those to them. I've seen those for a bunch of other bridges in Jackson right now that we're not repairing, and they're just sitting like they are, and nothing's happening with them. So going back to what you said earlier, it'd be nice if we had plans and evaluations and studies and know which way we ought to be doing and what's important where, which, rather than, and granted, you're saying I'm asking a question now, I'm asking the same question we should have asked on South State Street earlier. How did we go about picking McClure Road to need to be replaced? And I know this is before you probably don't know.
Yeah, well, no, I think we had discussions with Robert. I guess Terry actually had discussions with Robert about, and he told him that actually the bridges that they submitted were in his opinion at the time, I don't know if he went to the side, were the worst out of the others that he looked at. Now, of course, I didn't go and verify this. I'm just reporting what why he's applied for those, but he didn't apply for somebody else. For another project.
Well, my question about that is, he applied for McClure, which is not closed, but he didn't apply for Country Club Bridge, which is closed. Now, I would say the one that's closed is more needed than one that's not closed. So I don't know that I trust his evaluation about what's the most important to apply for. Because just in my own little simple mind, replacing a closed bridge is more important than repairing
Well,
one.
of course, we don't know, but he might have applied for it and didn't get.
No, he didn't apply, no.
So I don't know.
No, we know that. We know the ones he applied for, because we got a copy of those after it's done. So he applied for this one, he applied for Dixon. That's great. If we got funding for him, that's great. I'm just curious how you go about, and granted, Robert's gone, and granted, he was the only one here to do it, to pick them. But it just seems to me that when we got 50 that need it, how we pick the ones that are there. How we pick, you know.
Yeah, I mean, you're really using the same argument I'm using. We need to do an assessment for all of them.
Yeah, but-
and make
Yeah,
prioritization of what needs to be
and we
done.
gave $500,000 for the city to do that assessment, and wasted it on something else, and so we didn't get that assessment, but let's go past that, that's already happened. So we don't have that assessment.
McClure is posted, it's a T6, so.
Oh, if it's not closed, he just said it was posted, I asked
No,
him.
it's not closed, but it's posted.
I'm saying, we got some that are closed that we didn't apply for. So if we got one that's closed that we didn't apply for, why is one that's posted is more important? That's my only question. Okay.
Well, all I know, that it's posted, the fire truck cannot go over it, any truck cannot go over it, so.
So this request is just for design money?
Yeah, for design funds.
My only objection is he said somebody should have been asking these questions earlier on the other ones, and so I'm asking.
So he's giving me a hard time for what I'm saying.
That one comment didn't talk to you.
No, that's fine. I'm for doing an assessment for all of the infrastructure.
Yeah.
So you all can make decisions based on data.
For what it's worth, I'm gonna make a motion that we approve this, but for what it's worth, I just wanna set Jackson up for success into coming years. This may not be the top priority, but it's a timber bridge, is my thinking on it. And whether it's above or below Dixon, I don't know, but.
We did know it's a timber bridge.
We did know it's a timber bridge, and we
Okay.
know it ain't unrocking.
Okay.
So that's,
I didn't know
I'll
it was
make-
timber, I didn't know it was timber.
it just, it says,
I can't.
it says timber relief bridge, I'm
Okay,
assuming
okay,
that means
got it.
that's some material. I have not been there, I don't know.
Yes.
I've driven across it, but I
Yeah.
couldn't tell much about it.
Is this the one that Councilman Stokes brought up?
No, it's not. That's another one that's a timber bridge going off from Medgar Evers. I actually think nothing's wrong with that bridge except the railings are falling off of it. It can be repaired. I don't think, it's a timber bridge, but I think I don't know, but I think it's not rated. I think it's just the rails have come off. So that's a whole other issue. That's up going into Hawkins Field, this is way down there.
Can I make a motion
Yeah.
that we
Yes.
approve this design contract,
What's your
or
motion?
this design fee?
Tell me the number, I can read.
$112,550. I'll make a motion that we obligate 1% funds to that.
Second.
Second from,
Could you repeat that motion one more time? I'm sorry, I couldn't make it out.
I'm making a motion that we approve $112,550 for the design fee for Pickering Engineering to do a design to replace the bridge on McClure Road. That's a timber bridge.
and we had a second from Commissioner Wright. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye. Aye. That's a yes. Aye.
Thank you,
Now
Jonathan.
then, I've got a question, not about that specific, but it raises a question. When we have a design contract, this one, $112,550, is that a fixed price contract? It's $112,550 no matter what, it's not a time, and
No, this is a fixed fee.
it's a fixed fee. If we don't ever do the project, it's gonna cost $112,550 if we get out there.
No, if you don't do the project, you can,
Well, I mean, if he does the design, gets through with the design, so it takes a bid,
oh, if we don't do the construction.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
But-
you have to pay the 100.
But it's I mean, unlike the C&I that's time and material, this is a fixed fee.
Yeah, typically the design is a fixed fee.
That's come up while I'm looking at some of these other projects, that question came up, I just wanted that, thank you.
You want-
And usually this is not covered by the MPO.
I know it's not covered yet.
Okay, the last project here is overlay of McDowell Road from Raymond to Suncrest.
I'm sorry, can I ask one quick question about this? So is this, Are you guys delineating between MDOT federal is that the ERBR money?
No, this is not the.
This is just a straight LPA?
It's an FDR project.
So what's the time frame on,
It's in the application, we can bring you that information. I don't
Should be
have
obligated in February next year.
Obligated.
Yeah.
Yes,
be
sir.
obligated February next year?
That's what the man said.
Fantastic. Thank you.
The last one is the overlay of McDowell Road, and we brought this up last meeting, and me and Dr. Ahmed had different opinion. I don't remember exactly whether your commission approved it or not. Matt said that you all did. And I asked Pete, because I was with him in the minutes, and he said he doesn't remember. So what he suggested is that we just do another motion.
We did.
He's
We
got-
captured it last.
He's got it on his minutes.
Okay, we did, so we don't need to do
That's
anything.
fine.
So I guess.
I was thinking we did, but
Yeah, I wasn't sure.
not having it.
So that's all my report, unless anybody has any questions.
No other questions?
You did.
All right, move on to other business discussion. Commissioner Perry?
I move that we obligate up to $250,000 to engage a consultant to start, not that they can do it yet, so that we can work on phase 2 of the neighborhood streets. My purpose being saying if we obligate it now, we can get it to the city council for getting a contract approved with a consultant. In the meantime, we've got a beginning list, a pretty good long list of streets from neighborhoods that were not included in the last projects, or neighborhoods that were so big that there's still some more to do with them. So we've got a beginning list. We're gonna compare that against what the county is doing, or might be doing, and then trying to evaluate if we can do all of it, or if it breaks into phases. But right now, obligating the money, we can start the ball moving so that hopefully we can get a consultant engaged in the summer so that we could take bids in the late fall so that they could start the work kind of like we did on 2C and get concrete work or whatever out of the way and the early paving is done.
So you want 250 just for assessing
But, well,
and
yeah.
and creating the list?
Yeah, not creating the list, we create the list. But they look at the list to see if there's any that ought to come off because there's major failures there that you can't just, it's not a million to resurfacing or whatever. It's, or they say there's gonna be some Jackson water sequestration. What we did last time on 1A, B, and C, we created a list. We engaged a consultant to put together the bid documents and also to write them and look at them and make initial assessments of what the quantities and units. Chad might can speak to this better, but units or whatever it might take, not with getting out a survey, but just looking basically at, but we need to start that process. This would be for a consultant to do that front end work, take bids, then we'll have somebody do the CE&I. And we don't get to pick consultant, I'm just saying, here's the money so that we can move a contract to the city council. And at our next meeting, we'll have streets and maps to look at and say, here's what we're thinking about ought to be in there. And it gets into a general discussion, and then that list would go to the consultant to go out and start working on the plans for it. It's following the same way we went about doing the 1A, B, and C.
And in your mind, what's the dollar amount of street paving
Well,
that gets done?
The reason I came up with $250,000 this time, frankly, we paid $300,000 to do it last time. Now we've at least learned a little bit of the process. They might come back and say, hey, you want to hire us, it's going to cost $282,000. I mean, I don't know, we don't have a proposal. I think maybe we did get a proposal from them when we voted on it last time. But that's because Public Works brought a consultant in here and got an estimate from them to do it. And we don't.
Typically, I mean, you don't really know what the amount for design until you know what streets you want and how many. So do you have an idea of how many lines?
Yes, I do. I think to try to answer that with you. Roughly, it would look a whole lot like 1B and 1C look like. Because basically in South Jackson, if you go down Terry Road and across McClure and down Raymond Road, most of the neighborhoods down there are small. They got 2, 3, 5, 6 streets. They're just a street going down and a couple of streets, unlike what you see up here. And so, yes, it's going in there and saying, these bad, and so let's get these 5 streets. And it's just popping down there. If you go down those streets I've just named, there's a couple other cross streets. There's several of those little neighborhoods, and most of them are in similar shape of being bad. Not terrible, because they're not as old as North and Northeast and Northwest Jackson is, or Central Jackson. But if we're gonna go in there, get in and do them all out. Looking at how many there are in that big block, there's also another larger group that's in that central area that would go just south of Highway 80 down above McDowell, whatever the next cross street is. There's larger areas in there, kind of like the neighborhoods up here. And then there's some across North Jackson, because we didn't get very much in North Jackson because Ward 2 had very few streets included in it. I will say the county's done a lot of the streets up there north of Lake Tahoe. The total number of streets that we're looking at right now would be similar to what we did, probably at $20 million worth of work. Chad, it's what 1B and C total? 15 million?
Yeah, I mean, with the change order.
Yeah,
yes.
with 1B and C, not 1A.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but we
So-
added streets of 1B and 1C.
Yeah, I'm talking about after we added, yeah. The original.
No, it's 21 million, almost 22.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, 20.
20 billion, okay. We started with 1B and 1C, then we went in there and said, with the change order, we're gonna get most of the rest of the neighborhood and finish it out. I think we would have that same policy here. So we're probably talking about another $20 million worth of streets, to give you an answer.
Yeah, great.
Do we have $20 million?
Well, not yet, but we're not gonna issue that, that's a November decision. You know, that's a down the road, because it'd be that long before we're ready to go take bids on it.
Pete, is your motion?
My motion is, we obligate, and somebody tell me, I think my number's wrong, I cut it by a little bit from what we paid last time. Yeah. But it's $250,000, would they negotiate with the consultant, they say more, we'll have to come back and jack it up. But, you know, to do the, once we give them the streets, to do the initial assessment, prepare the bid documents to do the bids.
So, will you just run down the expected deliverables for that? For that money, you would expect what to come out of
The
that?
design.
Well, there's really no design, because you don't talk, it isn't.
You want a list of streets?
We're gonna hand them a list of streets. They're gonna look at that street and say, this street's gonna take this many tons of mid, this many tons of asphalt, this many linear feet of curb and gutter to be replaced. Granted, most of these streets don't have curb and gutter. And so, what they do is do that, you know, and so here's what we put out when we make a bid document, and list the streets in the bid document. And if they come back and say, you put Main Street over here, Main Street ought not be included because it's more than a mill and overlay, or hell, it's in good shape, the county's just paid it. You know, I mean, they physically go look at them too. All of them been looked at a bunch of times, but they would look at them, make an assessment, make a quantity estimate, and put the bid document together.
And you're saying this is the same process we employed for?
I don't know if I don't know if I just spelled it out right about what we asked them to do.
Well, I guess I'm just trying to think through,
More or
so
less.
Yeah.
we, the commission here are authorizing up to
Yeah.
$250,000, let's say. And then someone with the city is going to go solicit a proposal from an engineering
They'll
firm.
get an engineer.
That'll have
Yeah.
a clear set of deliverables.
And they'll write a
So
contract.
Paul, really probably what's gonna happen, because we're only 2-3 weeks away from the new administration.
Right.
So, probably we need, at least my recommendation would be to wait until they come in. I'll sit with the mayor and say, this 1% sales tax commission approved the 250. Who do you wanna hire, and, what is the process to begin? If he has different ideas, obviously come back to you all.
Yeah, but I mean, but that, which is, you still, the Public Works will sometimes sit down, get a consultant, get a proposal, and then they would write up that contract you're talking about. they would probably copy the contract we used on 1A, B, and C.
I've got no problem with
Yeah,
money.
I think it's a good question.
My questions are just sort
Yeah,
of thinking
sure.
through
Right.
transition, also thinking through how does this actually come back for accountability, you know,
Yeah.
to the commission.
Yeah.
So it's probably not gonna come back until the new administration.
Yeah,
comes in.
sure. That's right. You couldn't even get it on the council agenda.
Well, I mean,
Yeah, so I want-
Then they have to come back to us. I mean, they might say, yes, let's move forward and do this, whatever, and just, it's given the ability to let it move forward. The reason being, if we want to get it started, we need to take the bids in this fall sometime to be able to move it forward. So that's why I'm trying to move. Ideally, we would have done this a month ago, but we didn't.
So we have
I'll second the motion.
second from Commissioner Malavecchia. All in favor of approving up to $250,000 for phase 2 to hire a consultant? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
And we have one absent.
Well, we can go when it gets back.
You what? We'll let them know, yeah. Okay, motion passes. Any other business?
I got one more, the one I just raised. You got one, go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to give a quick update. I have left Flowood now that we're for Ridgeland. One of my first tasks is to try and close out the East County Line paving project. The interlocal agreement has 50% matching funds from Ridgeland and Jackson to cover the local portion. And that's up to $300,000. And that project is done and finished. And I'm currently assembling a list to send over for a check request from the city. I think there's been no check request up to this point. I just wanted to prime whoever might be receiving that came in at 274. And so we're below that 300,000. The East County Line paving, I'm not the city of Ridgeland. And so that's one of my first things is to try and make a full package for a check request from the city of Jackson per the interlocal agreement.
Okay.
And so I just want to let you know, it's done, the project's completed, everything's finished, it's under the 300,000, and so we'll just have
Because it's under 300,000, means the whole project was under,
the whole project was $2 million.
the whole project was less, which means the city of Richmond submitted an estimate when they got the MPO funded, basically what the cost of the project was, rather than much less than what the cost of the project was. It can be done.
That's before my time.
I know, I'm not giving you credit for it, I'm just saying that all of our projects are way over what the estimate was. I mean, so we've already approved the $300,000.
Yeah, there's
So,
no
I mean,
action
when it
for
comes in, all you have
the
to do is pay the
1%.
bill.
I just, while I had the folks who might be
Yeah.
seeing that request eventually, just to let you know that,
Okay.
and if you have any questions, you can holler. So.
You had
I want to talk about those streets I mentioned a little while ago. It's Monroe Street, Foley Street, a little bit of Larson, and then there's 3 little cross streets. It's everything north of Fortification up to where the dead end is, which is Monroe. On the west side, it'd be Monroe. That's the one that turned by Taco Bell. Larson comes in by Whataburger and goes down. We did Larson after it gets by the old Shonda's. We've done that one. And that was,
you said north of Fortification, means south of Fortification?
I mean, north of High Street.
High Street,
North
okay.
north of High Street, excuse me, thank you. I got called to go look at it. And riding around, and saw what it is. There's 61 businesses down there. Everything from big businesses, like the 2 car dealerships and Southern, whatever,
Cowboy Maloney's
Sunbelt,
up there.
Cowboy Maloney's is down there, Energy's down there. You familiar with Energy?
Heard of them.
You know, there's 2 or 3 associations. There's that little business park down there. And the streets aren't absolutely terrible, except for down there on the north end of Monroe, just past the Energy building, where it's gonna take some actual building back, because you can't drive a tractor across it. Yeah, yeah. But the rest of them do. And those folks, just talking to some of the business down, they like being there, and they like being in Jackson. They like the fact that they're at the intersection off the interstate and whatever. But they also say, but we could move. Now, the 2 car dealerships can't move because of their franchise. But the Sunbelt guy said, I really don't want to, I just bought this big thing and expanded to it. But my customers can't get in and out down here. It's less than 2 miles of streets. They don't have a curb and gutter, they're narrow lanes, except for that end down the north end of the road. It's really just, Paul, you correct, it's just paving over it. It's not even milling if you don't have,
If you don't have curb, you don't have to.
you don't have to. They gotta do a little work down there. You know, I think, I want to, and we're gonna initiate that. Now, here again, Public Works has to send it over to the city, and the city has to say they wanna do it. But I wanna say, I think those streets ought to be done. I think we ought to obligate, I move that we obligate $200,000 to do them. And, you know, I don't even know if it takes an engineer to run the project or not.
How much were you getting?
What, $300,000? I mean, I don't know whether you have to hire an engineer to manage it or whether you just send a paving crew down there to pave it. I don't know how that works. Y'all deal with that. But I think it'd be a grand gesture of goodwill to a bunch of businesses down there that like staying in Jackson.
I support that. I'll second.
What was your motion exactly?
I move we obligate $300,000 to do whatever resurfacing and repaving is due to all those streets
Yeah.
between Monroe and Foley, Fortification and Moodwood, except for that section of Larson that's been redone. It's easy to tell the section has been redone. It's just the south end of Larson where it comes and curves around by Whataburger. Once you hit the Best Western, it's paved from there.
High Street. I know you keep on
High
saying.
Street, thank you, High Street.
I'll second that motion. If it hasn't, is there?
I did, I seconded.
You seconded, it? I'm sorry,
Yeah.
okay.
Any further discussion?
I was running the numbers.
Is that a reasonable number? I
I
think
got,
it's,
I got 290
I think it's,
at $110 a ton,
yeah.
24 feet
No
wide.
further discussion, all in favor? Aye.
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 And I believe Commissioner Lee has dropped off, so if none are opposed,
You know what, I think, so Homo did do a bit of resurfacing out of their own money.
They did.
Yeah.
And somebody gone down there and patched a few of them a lot because there was 2 little streets that went in and popped off down. I was going through it yesterday, patched the way they weren't. But they're the ones doing all the remodeling on the building right now.
Yeah.
I mean, but it's still some bad driving down to
yeah, it is.
Does the city have a term bid for asphalt
Well, we have a term bid asphalt.
right now, active?
Yes, we do.
So
So you could just issue a PO and go do that.
that would be, but
You have term bid.
We have this asphalt though. There.
No, okay, not, no, I mean asphalt in place, actually paved.
Got a secret?
No.
No. Not that big a stretch.
county, if you'd like to see
Oh.
what they do with Bay Lane. That's what they're doing with AJ. We could see if they would do it with you Bay
Whose
Lane.
district is that?
What?
Whose district is it?
Oh, hell no, we can't do it. That's in Bobcats.
That was really fast.
Good.
You knew the answer to that.
That's right. I don't know whether he'll do anything inside the city.
No other business?
I move we adjourn.
Adjourn.
You what?
We have to hire an engineer.
Fine.
Well, I mean, we got
Oh, this is what we can do. I need to.
our crews can't this week.
Well, but you don't have an engineer. just-
Yeah.
They called and said, hey, our guy left, we need you.
It's public
I worked a
instruction.
lot,
$100,000.
I mean, with the mayor
They-
and then
they
Alan
do it.
Hart.
Yeah.
Um,
And so now